Governor Gavin Newsom, you have a new book out this week.
A politician with a book.
A politician with a
Yeah,
book.
news break.
Never happens when someone's contemplating maybe running for president. But that aside,
Oh gosh, you went right there.
I read the book. I learned a lot about you. And one of the things that struck me was that throughout the book, you paint a picture of really being torn between two worlds.
Yeah.
You're torn between the world where you were a paper boy, even in the rain, where your mother was working multiple jobs, and the world of your father, and his relationship with the Getty family. And you kind of you do call it out in the book, where you write about your concern that the deeper entry into the Getty world could rob you of your own hard-earned story, which you say is one of the very reasons why you wrote the book. Why is that such an important perception for you to debunk for people?
Well, it's a perception I've been trying to debunk for years and years, and frankly, I walk right into it. I've only reinforced it in a defensive posture. So I thought I'd just take time to, scrutinize my life, a life that's not just about being a politician, quite the contrary. At the same time, I walked back and discovered aspects of my life that I was completely unaware of. The reason this is called Young Man in a Hurry, a memoir of discovery, is over the process of writing it, which was a 5-year process. I learned about my mom and dad. I learned why they got divorced. They never told me why they got divorced. Both have passed away. I never had the opportunity in the process of writing this to stress test aspects of their lives and discovered things that I never knew that explain so many things in so many ways on so many days in the present moment. My anxieties, my insecurities, weaknesses, strengths, triumphs, fears. And so really for me, it was a human expression. It was an effort to humanize not only my life, but to bring to life my extraordinary single mom and the idealism and sense of purpose that my father provided me.
You've talked about your battle with dyslexia a lot publicly over the years. You even wrote a children's book, and you talk about it a lot in the book in terms of dealing with undiagnosed dyslexia as a child. And you talk about your mother telling you it's okay to be average.
Yeah, I hated
Gavin.
that. I hated that.
You go on to say, and you describe in the book, I understand even back then that this too came from her deep reservoir of love for me, but I don't recall crueler words ever said to me. And one of the things that struck me is that throughout the book you talk about it, and it seems to me like it's given you maybe a chip on your shoulder to prove something. I mean, has it? Yeah,
no, I always hated her saying those words, and it was in the process of me trying to read, and was never going to happen. I mean, I was taking Cliff Notes and I was basically copying and pasting for book reports and being called out by teachers and struggling. And my mom was struggling. Again, she was, you said, 2-3 jobs consistently her entire life. And so she was, episodically there just trying to struggle to make ends meet, but also to try to take care of her 2 kids, make sure we are doing all right in school. And I think her frustration was just an expression of that it's just okay, be yourself, let it go. But I never felt that way for years and years and years. And so I do think there was an aspect of that made me see, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to show you. And the one thing that she gave me beyond anything else was a sense of grit, hard work, and resiliency. I mean, don't complain, don't explain. She was 19 years old. She's pregnant with me. A couple years later, she's raising us on her own. She came from no money, no wealth. She was just hustling. We had roommates all the time. We became a foster family, which I talk about a little bit in the book, and how she just made ends meet. And that sense of resiliency and that grit, that hard work, that ethic, was the greatest gift, and it's allowed me to survive some of my own self-inflicted wounds, a recall in California, and aspects of my life that I'm dealing with today that are pretty challenging and invite a lot of, scrutiny and critique.
I mean, one of those, you've talked about your battle with dyslexia a lot, and you've talked about it on your book tour as well. And MAGA is currently having an absolute meltdown on social media over comments you made on your book tour in Atlanta. And you said, just to remind people, while talking about your experience, you said, I'm like you, I'm a 960 SAT guy. Right-wingers and on Twitter and Fox News hosts and some even Republican elected officials have said that's racist. I mean, what goes through your head when you saw that commentary sort of building and bubbling online?
Well, they didn't say it when I talked to Charlie Kirk and said the exact same thing, or the dozens and dozens of other occasions where I've said exactly the same thing. It was a hell of a statement, particularly from people that have been countenancing racism in their party for decades. The same pundits, Sean Hannity, let's call them out by name, that didn't say one word still haven't said a word about the racist videos that were put out about Michelle Obama and Barack Obama. Nothing, not one word of condemnation of President of the United States that put out those racist videos, or shithole countries, or the birther issues. Not a word said. We're offended by someone who writes a book about learning disabilities and struggles academically and then expresses them in a mixed audience and somehow accuses that person of patronizing or somehow demeaning or being racist himself. That's a hell of a statement of the weaponization and the propaganda, the network, this machine that these folks have. And I'll tell you, forget me, put anyone else. This is what we're up against in this country. It goes to why I've shifted my social media. It's why we've been much more aggressive in our approach, and why Democrats more broadly have to shift gears. Conventional politics no longer applies. The right is ruthless. They're shape-shifting the conversation. They're defining the terms of debate. We're consistently on our heels. We have got to stay on our toes. We have to stay vigilant. And this is just a reminder of that. And in many ways, I was more prepared than I've been in the past, but it is a reminder still that we've got to raise the bar further.
A lot of people have heard you talk about this, but when you talk about struggling with dyslexia and your SAT scores, what are you trying to say to people out there?
Well, it's back to being the person, not the politician. That's who I am. I've always been, and I will continue to be, the kid in the back of the classroom with his heart pounding, his sweaty hands, praying that, Mr. Morris, whoever the teacher was in 7th, 8th grade, doesn't call on me. I will always be that guy. I'm today the politician that doesn't read a speech because I can't read the written word. I can do teleprompter speeches. They're challenging, and I spend a lot of time on them. It's the one exception. And I just want, and people may not even know that when I'm up there. They see me out there, they just assume I'm reading some speech. It's just a way of expressing who I am, because you know what? You should know who I am if you care. If you don't care, I get it. No one's telling you have to read this book, and I totally appreciate that. I'm just trying to, there's a freedom in just saying, this is who I am. And I find with politicians, with all due respect, I do, it's not an indictment of anyone, please don't read into that. We sanitize all this. We try to be people we're not. And candidly, I write about that. I put a mask on. I struck a pose. I was trying to be someone I'm not. And there was an inauthenticity that came through that. And I'd still moved through the days and years and, got to different jobs, but without the kind of, the kind of depth that I feel like I'm bringing to things today. I'm just on the other side because I'm more willing to share, and I just think it's important to do that.
You share a ton in this book. It's a version, it's been written as an Oppo book you're putting out there for other people of all of the things. One of the things that struck me, you talk about everyone has someone in their life who calls out their BS, hopefully more than one person if you're a politician. I have a feeling your sister is one of those people in your life. You write about her reaction to the now infamous photo of you and Kimberly Guilfoyle.
Bazaar magazine.
On the rug, which I think we all know that one. And you write that your sister said, had I been there, I would have told you, get your ass off the floor. You're the mayor of San Francisco. That's not a good look. You also write about how she tried to intervene before you had an affair with a staffer's wife. Is your sister that person in your life?
Yeah, well, she's the one constant. She's the one who understands me better than anyone. She understands my mother, my dad better than anyone. She understands the complexities and the dualities of our life and the contradictions in our life as well. And she's also someone that works in the businesses that I started right out of college, so I'm really proud of, which I write a lot about. I don't people know about that side of my background. I put pen to paper, opened a small business, grew it to 21 businesses, about 1,000 employees. And I don't say that to impress anyone, but to impress upon you that side of my life that's also not deeply known. And Hillary's been a huge part of that journey. But she's just part of the journey of sort of constancy and calling balls and strikes and calling me out. And so I thought it was important to share that. Again, that's what this is about, open book, and with grace and humility. And recognition of, a work in progress. I'm a work in progress. I'm in the process of becoming. Lessons, trial and error, making mistakes, learning from those mistakes. And it's people, as you say, that call you out, that still love you and want to see you improve, that care enough to call you out because they haven't given up on you like my sister that I'm so blessed with.
The book ends really before you become officially or inaugurated as governor and before Donald Trump is officially inaugurated to his first term. He doesn't talk a lot about Trump, but you do share an anecdote, the end of the book, about flying with Governor Brown on Air Force One. And it's a moment you also say you've reflected back on as you're trying to understand Trump. And this part really struck me. You write, it seemed to me that he, as in Trump, wanted to connect and be loved, but it was illusory. He couldn't connect in a genuine way. And you also said he had a deep, almost congenital capacity for feeling aggrieved. It struck me because you've spent so much time clearly thinking about your own upbringing and how that's impacted you. And I just wonder, how do you think Trump has become who he is today?
Yeah, I don't know that he got as many hugs as he needed. And I think a big part of who he is today is reflected in that. And I think, he's in many ways a broken man. And that's why I think he tried to break our country. On January 6th, tried to light democracy on fire and made those calls. I was just down in Fulton County 48 hours ago, getting some deeper understanding of the moment we're in today, but obviously where we were a few years ago after he lost the election was dialing up for 11, 12,000 votes. This guy's not screwing around, and nor should we in terms of our vigilance and response. But it's interesting, I paint, I hope, a human picture of Trump. This book ends, it's not a book about my time as governor. It's a memoir, weaves in the history of my political life in the context of being a county supervisor, being lieutenant governor, running for governor, and it ends with my father, who literally survived to see his son become governor of California. He passed away a few weeks later, and there's a brief epilogue. But I do talk about the transition, where I was acting governor and had an opportunity to sit with President Trump on Air Force One and Marine One, and went to Paradise, where this devastating wildfire in California, one of the most devastating in American history, occurred. And it's a hell of a story, if for no other reason. If you're not interested in a bio, you're not interested in someone's parents, grandparents, motivations, all that, you may be interested in, seeing that, Donald Trump is petting the side of Air Force One, or he's running me up to the cockpit. He's running me into his bedroom, talking about how many beds he has, and just some interesting back and forth. And it really gave me an insight of him. It was the first time I ever met him, and it set the tone to how we engaged when COVID hit, and actually how we had a remarkably good relationship. Despite the fact we were jawing each other publicly, I could pick up the phone privately, and it marks why I was out there on the tarmac with him in Los Angeles. And it marked, for me, a consciousness that, there are red lines with him, but he has a remarkable capacity to move beyond them and continue. And you see that over and over and over again. And so he's a complex person in every way, shape, or form, but I think in so many ways he's broken.
You made it, and you touched on this a little bit already, but you shifted how you were approaching Trump at some point during the first year of his second term. Around last summer, I would say it was, or that's my recollection.
Yeah, you're right.
When, during that period of time, of course, the National Guard, he was threatening to send the National Guard in, ICE was terrorizing communities. But what was the shift about? What prompted your shift?
I talked about his red line. That was my red line. Just the rank lies. He called me up and late at night, like 1, 2 in the morning his time. And this was the night before he federalized the National Guard, and wanted to talk about his nickname for me, New Scum. How proud he was. This is so original, isn't it? It's literally how the conversation began. I'm like, Mr. President, it's not original. In fact, and I write about it in the book, there was like an 8th grade bully on Baltimore that used to call me New Scum. And then he immediately shifts to MAGA's pretty impressive, isn't it? I'm like, how are we having this conversation? And it went on like that. 12 hours later, I pick up, a text from the staff. They said, did you read the Truth Social? And it's Trump laying me out, saying he read me the Riot Act, complete BS. And now just announced he was federalizing the National Guard. 4,000 National Guard were federalized. 700 active duty Marines were not sent overseas. We're sent to the second largest city in the United States of America, militarizing the streets. We said it at the time, this was a preview of things to come. We saw it in DC, Chicago. We obviously have seen it in Minnesota. Said the same thing after the first masked men started to show up, and this guy, Greg Bovino, came on the scene at the Democracy Center in Little Tokyo in downtown Los Angeles. Said that's a preview of things to come. And so California's been in the front. We've been in the light, we've been tested first in so many respects. But I was tested in a way where I said, I can't go back to my original form. I've got to shift. And we radically shifted gears, and we started to put up a mirror to Trump and Trumpism. A guy who's cosplaying, dressed up as a pope, dressed up as Superman, is putting his face up there on Mount Rushmore. Someone in all cap demeaning and attacking people. Meanwhile, he's got all these people complicit on these propaganda networks like Fox, the primetime lineup there, not saying a damn word about it. And then offended they were when I started putting that mirror up. How dare the governor react like this? It's ungubernatorial to put out tweets like this. And so I'm trying to expose that, use a little humor, but it is about narrative, and it's about being present consistently over and over and over and over again in an environment where it's shock and awe on the other side. It goes back to the original part of our conversation.
It seems like part of the strategy was shining a light on capitulation by companies, by the media at times, by universities, by law firms.
Yeah.
You've even sold knee pads.
Well, they sold out.
There you go.
On my Patriot site, which is a real thing. They sold out, like, as you suggest, our universities, like our law firms, like a lot of our corporate media has been selling out. A lot of corporate leaders have been selling out. Corporations, quite literally selling out. Golden shares, 10% tithings. Free enterprise has shifted now into crony capitalism and state capitalism, and it's happened on our watch. It's a disgrace. I mean, no character. We can lose this republic. We can lose our country, and they're complicit. All of them are complicit. And the ones that are silent, with all due respect, are as well. We have to meet this moment. And, it's inartful to do that. I'm making a lot of friends by, going to Switzerland in a corporate setting and bringing knee pads on stage for the folks in the audience. But it was a message I'm trying to send, and it's a message that's reflected in the book. I'm on the other side. That's why this is different. This is not trust me, you can say anything about me, this is not a typical politician's book in any way, shape, or form. And I'm not a typical person. Then again, maybe I am. I'm human. All the warts and all. And the approach I'm taking as I've got this sell-by date as governor is I'm just putting it out all on the line. And I'm just going to be me, and I'm not going to be in peril of regretting that I could have, would have, should have. And I think we all have to have that attitude right now, because we're up against something that is so insidious, so extraordinary, so deviant from any norms and traditions. He is an invasive species in so many ways, shape, or form. And the story of Donald Trump is not a complicated one. It's a corruption story. It's one of the great grifts of all times. And it's happening, and he's getting away with it. And I can't take it anymore, with respect. And so, again, it's reflected, I think, a little bit in who I am, the why I am doing what I'm doing. But I think all of us need to hold ourselves, all of us, especially me, to a higher level of expectation and accountability at this moment.
Do you think the capitulation has gotten any better?
I think people, the people have led. The real leaders are those with moral authority, not formal authority. The people of Minneapolis, people that have stood up the No Kings rally, people that are just not, that they didn't get the memo. That they're, that it's,
they should capitulate.
Yeah, that it's just, we should be cynical, we should be fearful, we should be anxious. They become the antidote to that, and that's extraordinary. And as a consequence, we're developing stronger backbones. And people are showing up. I was all over the South, and people are showing up. I'm in the smallest rural communities in the country, towns of 2,000 to 3,000 people, and I felt like half the town was showing up because they haven't given in yet. And that bucks me up. And I think it's making us all stronger and all better. So yes, I do think Trump's in retreat, not just in Greenland, he's in retreat in Minnesota. His economic policy's in retreat. He got clobbered on the IEEPA in the Supreme Court on the tariffs. His economic policies of mass deportation and tariffs are a debacle. He promised to make us healthier and wealthier. We're poorer now and sicker. Everything that he's gonna spew tonight will be contradicted by feelings and lived reality.
I mean, we've talked in the past about the fact that you are a consumer of Fox News and a consumer at times of the manosphere. You've talked to some members of the manospheres. I'm shorthanding them. There has been a lot of outrage, it feels like, in the last several months. I mean, failure to release the Epstein files, Trump doubling down on tariffs, some things that have made his base mad, angry.
Yeah.
Do you think that though there's also at the same time wishful thinking sometime among some Democrats that he's losing, his base is falling out? What do you think this moment is different? Has anything shifted, or what's your reality?
Well, even if they fell out, he's the president of the United States for the next 3 years. Good news, he's temporary. That's just 3 years. And the presidency, as we know it, will de facto end this November when we get the gavel back and Speaker Jeffries becomes the next speaker, as long as we remain vigilant, as he's trying to nationalize federal election, or at least in 15 states, as he's trying to take over the Fulton County elections, as he continues to vandalize free and fair elections in terms of trust and going after vote by mail, sending out those masked men all across this country and doing other suppression tactics. We need to be vigilant in that respect. But look, he's a reality, and we can't turn our back to that reality. And when I say this is a corruption story, I think it's directly connected to the Epstein files and what was just out there today in NPR, and about magical number 50 pages that have once again disappeared. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a reason. I mean, just forget all the who's up, down on the Epstein file, what the latest interview. There's a reason he's single-handedly worked so hard to make sure they were never released. There is a reason. Period, full stop. It's not complicated. Well, to be determined. And every day there's another clue. That NPR story is pretty damn alarming. And here's what's more alarming, and this is my biggest concern, is that there's a chance we may not know for one reason. I could see on his way out pardoning half the damn administration on his way out. I could see things disappearing on the way out. We need to be mindful of that. We need to be vigilant of that. This is the rule of dawn. It's the rule of the jungle. There's no rule of law. The courts are speed bumps. They're not stop signs. Tries to work around them. He doesn't believe in co-equal branches of government. He was shocked to learn that the Supreme Court may have actually once, and let none of us fall prey to this being the new Supreme Court. Spare me on that. But on this one, I mean, we were the first to sue under this tariff regime,
mm-hmm.
And in the middle of the Central Valley, talking about how farmers and ranchers, and it was just, there was no chance in hell. I was shocked how they even got few dissenting votes. Was jaw-dropping. I mean, that to me is legal malpractice. That said, he seemed shocked that there actually appears to be a co-equal branch of government, the courts, that are kind of holding on. He was also shocked because he can't use this for the shock and awe for his personal portfolio, the tariffs. Mm-hmm. I mean, just as he did in Vietnam. He got $1.5 billion and got that fast-track golf course, just as he's doing with the UAE. $2 billion with the Witkoff family, the Trump family, getting rich, and then sending high-value computer chips, national security, to the UAE. He's doing it everywhere. He uses trade. He uses tariffs. Who are the first people to show up in every foreign trip? His emissaries are business emissaries, members of the family. Billions and billions of dollars of grift in just 1 year. A corruption story, the likes of which we've never seen in American history, happening in real time, and Epstein files are reflective of that as well.
And his family's making a boatload of money.
It's sick.
At the same time.
Yes. At your expense, at our expense, national security expense, relationships, trade, alliances, all of them being destroyed. Calling up the Qataris, $400 million plane, telling the folks at the IRS, $10 billion, I'll negotiate with myself. $230 million at the DOJ. It's happening, all of it, in real time and on our watch. So again, spare me the complicit. I mean, that's why there's knee pads on the Patriot site.
That have sold out, as you've noted. This lack, I mean, he does not want to be held accountable. He doesn't want to lose power. That's very, very clear. And the more that it becomes clear to him that he could lose power, the more desperate he becomes. You were just in Georgia. You met with some of the Fulton County election officials. It was only last month when the ballots were taken from Fulton County in an effort to not just prove that Trump won the 2020 election, which he did not, but to serve as a precursor for messing with this election. What did you tell those election workers when you
Well, that we have their back and we'll keep coming back, and I also thank them for their vigilance, for them calling this out. But it's a pretty alarming thing. I don't want to get into the specifics of our conversations, but he's trying to take it over. He's trying to control the outcome of that election. And this is a preview of things to come all across the United States. He's going to assert some authority that doesn't exist. And the courts take forever to catch up. I talk about these masked men. I saw that. The BORTAC teams were sent out. These are the Border Patrol folks, the folks with the Apache helicopters, on Election Day in November at Dodger Stadium to chill free expression and free speech as he sends out a Truth Social saying the election was rigged and put out DOJ monitors that day. And it went to the Supreme Court, that election, our Prop 50 election. Thank God we won. He is not screwing around because, exactly to your point, he knows he is going to be held to a different level of scrutiny and accountability. And the big grift may be slowed down. At least we'll put sand in the gears. That's how consequential and precious every moment is between now and November.
It's important, you've been calling it out, for people to be clear-eyed about what he is capable of. You said this week there will not be a fair and free election in the United States of America as we know it unless we win back the House of Representatives in November. You've outlined this a bit, but what do you mean by that specifically? As people are trying to understand what that looks like, what does it look like in the season leading up to 2028?
Well, what is the one thing he connects all the dots to? The people he admires, they all have one thing in common. They're competitive authoritarians. I mean, Orban and Putin, the rest. I think Putin got, 87.3% of the last vote? They love elections. I said fair and free elections, the illusion of elections. The voting rolls, Pam Bondi tried to take them from California months and months ago. We're in litigation before she tried to do in exchange for troops moving out of Minnesota wanting the election rolls. What is that about? Wake up, folks. What's the SAVE Act about? I was just down in the South. It's not just about IDs. It's about registration. Who can vote? I mean, this is...
Puerto Rico.
This is, it's not blinking yellow. It's code red. It's happening faster than it happened in Hungary. It's happening faster than other takeovers in other countries, including Turkey. It's happening faster in real time. Look what's happening to media right now. Look what's happening. And it's the chill of free expression and speech. It's not what's said, it's now what's not said. The stories that are not being pursued, the contracts that are not going to be renewed. It's him telling Susan Rice she needs to resign or there's no merger. The hell is that? So much deeper than Kimmel. This is serious. Fair and free elections? How about democracy, freedom, free expression, free speech? All of it. Code red in this country. And my fear is we get so easily distracted and they're so effective on the other side. And so it's just, we must continue to be mindful, laser focused on what's in front of us every single day until the job is done.
The Constitution is very clear about Trump being able to run for a third term, and of course states run elections. But you, as you said, you've grappled with this. You thought about it, you dealt with some threats around Prop 50. What should every state be doing right now? What do you wish every state was doing to prepare for everything you just outlined?
Well, I think it's about a state of mind, of vigilance. They have to double down on all their voter protection. They have to double down on what the Registrar of Voters is doing and not doing as it relates to election security. And that's county by county. It's bottom up, not top down. States play a big role. Secretary of States do as well, but the registrars in each county play an even bigger one. We have to make sure, all of us, these campaigns, but also our party broadly, just people who believe the party, the red, white, and blue party, the Americans maintain their vigilance as it relates to legal defenses and strategies to make sure we call this out. We've got to push back against these purges of the voter rolls and the attacks on truth and trust. It's about creating so much distrust that he can create the conditions where then he can intervene and say, there shall not be, I'll tell Speaker Johnson, they may lose by 65 seats. Say, well, you won't sit any of them because we have proof in these 4 places that this was a rigged election, and try to play this out in the United States Supreme Court. And we already have 3 members that will literally are so supine. I mean, I don't even have, even my new Trump signature series knee pads are not large enough for those 3 justices. That's how real this is. It's happening on our watch. It's 2026. It's not 1906. It's not 1896.
There are some people waiting in the wings in the MAGA world who would love to be the chosen ones of the Trump orbit. J.D. Vance is one of them. Marco Rubio is one of them. Do you think they can carry on the MAGA flame here?
No, but Vance, for whatever reason, scares me.
Why?
almost more than Trump. I don't know. I just, I mean, talk about a guy who put a mask on and his face grew into it. I mean, J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio were two of the most effective critics, just like that guy, what's his name, Graham, Lindsay, of Donald Trump. What frauds, what phonies. But J.D. is a unique fraud and phony, and he's a little more dangerous. And the folks around him, these are not folks that believe. I mean, listen to some of its biggest funders, the way they talk. There's a nihilism to the way they talk about the world. I know these guys. I literally know them, not figuratively know them. Some of them are in the book. Knew them back when. So again, I don't want to be overly hyperbolic about this, but you know, but that said, it's going to be hard for Trump. Trump's still, you know, you think this guy is going to sit there in the Oval Office waiting for you to ask him a question and say, well, sir, Jen's not here. She's in Iowa with the debate with Vance. There's no damn way on earth. So he's going to try to run this out till right after the end until he could pick and choose who goes behind him. Or, God forbid, we don't take back the House of Representatives. He may be on that ballot.
He'll try.
I just wouldn't put it past him. I mean, look, what he does, it's the old adage, once a mind is stretched, it never goes back to its original form. What he does, he tests all this. He throws the stuff out, sees how you're going to react. If you don't react, all of a sudden it's socialized, now it's normalized, and he'll just, you know, it's his. He'll keep taking it. So that's why it's so important that we not just say, oh, Trump's being Trump. Perhaps those are the most damning words in the English language right now. It's not Trump being Trump. You got to call it out. None of this is normal. It's unconscionable. And that's why the folks at Fox are such a disgrace, because they know better. And we don't think they know better. We know they know better. What was that big lawsuit where they had to settle? We saw all their emails. We saw all the text messages. We saw what they're saying behind his back. And they're complicit because they're making a ton of money, because that's all it's about. It's about their grift as well. Sorry, Jen. It's the world we're up against.
I'm fully aware and clear-eyed to the world we're up against. It's no secret you're considering running in 2028. You're not going to tell me if you're going to now or not. You're welcome to.
It's on page 50 of the book.
Page 50. If people go out and buy the book.
Best way to buy it's in bulk.
What I'm interested in knowing from you, though, is you've been out there traveling across the country. You've met with a lot of people in different communities, red states, blue states, purple states. What do you think? There's a lot of parlor games about what Democratic voters are looking for. You know, it can't be a woman. It has to be a fighter. It can't be a fighter. It has to be a white man from the Midwest. What are you hearing from people about what do you think they want?
Well, I think they want someone who knows why they're running.
Why they're running.
Yeah, knows who they are, why they're running. That is authentic and is honest. That can express a point of view and defend it. That may have contradictions, meaning they may not agree with every single thing, but they're able to at least articulate a why, that have some humility, have some grace and understanding that good people exist on the other side of those debates and conversations. And I think people want, and I heard this everywhere, and I was in the Deep South, went to a lot of churches, and perhaps it was not surprising, but in the spirit of Isaiah, they want a repair of the breach. It's like, we're just exhausted. This can't continue forever. And they also want this, and it's why it's a complicated question. They want a fighter. They want someone who's going to stand up and have their back. The timidity, I'm not in any crowds that are looking for timidity. People want fighters, but also people that can heal. And I have no idea what my role is in that respect, but I'm one of them. I want that as well.
You'll know before the rest of us
as a taxpayer.
What your role is.
Well, we'll see. I don't know. That will be determined by those 4 perfect beasts that happen to be my kids and my extraordinary rock star wife. And that's another part of this story. Is the reason my parents got divorced is because my dad's foray into politics, and it broke him. He became broke, and he left. And that's why my mom, in this book, it opens up with her saying, I don't want you to get in politics. I never knew why. She died 20 years ago, and I discovered why in the process of writing this book. And maybe that's the cautionary tale. And maybe that's why I wrote it at its core. And it's a love letter to my 4 kids.
Tonight, Trump is giving his State of the Union address, as you are, I'm sure, tracking. He is historically unpopular. He was just rebuked by the Supreme Court on tariffs. Things are not going well for him, I think it's fair to say. But he's going to paint a different picture, unquestionably, out there. What do you want people to know as they're watching this speech or to understand?
Well, I think he's making the same mistake, dare I say, often I was making as we were defending what was a pretty impressive record from my humble perspective with the Biden administration. We were trying to argue the way people should feel. And people aren't buying what he's selling because they're not feeling it. They don't buy that he's done anything on affordability, quite the contrary. They don't buy that things have gotten cheaper, they haven't. They don't buy that, that the country's moving in the right direction. And so he'll spin the yarn around tariffs and somehow someone else pays for it. It's a lie. He'll spin the yarn that never been a stronger economy, more investments in this country and the nation's history. All the BS. It's the good thing with Trump, there's no surprises. I mean, he repeats the same lines all the time. And even if it's not on the screen, he'll ad-lib it. And so we'll hear the same thing. He'll just sit here and it's like a bingo card. But it's not landing. I mean, he's like a punch-drunk boxer right now. He's just flailing. I mean, that Friday press conference after Supreme Court, it's just not, this is not the same Trump. That's not the same Trump I met in this book. It's a different guy. He's derivative even of himself. He's becoming more of a carny. He's becoming more of a flim-flammer. Dare I say he's a music man now. There's a vacuousness to him. I think it'll be on full display tonight.
Governor Gavin Newsom, congrats on your book. Thanks for sitting down with me.
Appreciate it.